Already tonight, there's some second guessing among Democrats about what went wrong and celebration among Republicans for a job well done. We're joined now by Democratic political strategist Donna Brazile and columnist George Will, both ABC News consultants, to talk about that election in Massachusetts tonight. Welcome to both of you. So, George, how bad is this for the president?
Well, it's very bad because a great Massachusetts politician, former Speaker Tip O'Neill, famously said all politics is local. Not tonight. This was the most thoroughly nationalized state election I've ever seen in 40 years of watching this. When Scott Brown was on the campaign trail and asked for autographs, he'd sign Scott Brown 41, meaning he was be the 41st and decisive vote against health care reform. When he came out tonight in front of his supporters, they chanted 41, 41. Mr. Obama is up against the fact that he made a bold, and it now seems quite reckless, mistake in defining his presidency around one piece of legislation that has become more and more unpopular as people get a longer and longer look at it.
Donna, somehow I imagine you don't agree with George Will on this. How much trouble is the president in?
Well, first of all, history suggests that this will be a very tough electoral year for Democrats. And I think tonight Democrats heard from voters in the Bay State that they still want change. They may not want the kind of change that they've seen with the legislative sausage grinding, but they still want change. So I think the president needs to redouble his efforts starting tomorrow to work with Harry Reid, Speaker Pelosi, to ensure that the change that people voted for in 2008, and that is to focus on jobs, the economy, to focus on things that matter to the American people. And let me say this, I know the conventional wisdom is that health care is dead. It would be a huge mistake for Democrats to allow this important piece of legislation to die. It may not look the same way, but I think the president needs to pick up the pieces and deliver on the change he promised voters in 2000.
Well, it sounds to me like you have a little bit more agreement with George Will than I suspected. George, can the president pull the chestnuts out of the fire on this one? Can health care survive?
I don't see how. There's no clamor in the country for this. There is a clamor in the country to pay attention to other things. This monomania that the Congressional Democratic Party has about health care reform is beginning to look like a kamikaze mission. The Pelosi-Reid Congress has a lower approval rating among independent voters than it has among Republican voters. And the idea that they can go back and patch together some bits and pieces of this bill when the House and the Senate don't even agree on the fundamental financing of it. They are nowhere near having a secure majority in either House anymore. I would expect some senators, Blanche Lincoln perhaps of Arkansas and Ben Nelson of Nebraska, among others, to use this vote tonight as an excuse for saying, enough, let's not go off this cliff.
So, Donna, where did the president go wrong, and what specifically has he got to do?
This is a very impatient electorate. This was not a referendum on President Obama. This is a referendum on the national economy. Voters are impatient. They want change. They voted the Republicans out in 06 and 08, and they're sending a message to Democrats that if you don't pay attention to us, if you don't fix the economy, we will also vote you out of office. So I think it's important to listen to voters. They're not calling on Scott Brown to bring back the policies of the Bush administration. They're calling upon Scott Brown to go to Washington, D.C., to work with the president and to bring about change and not to spend so much money.
We're going to have to leave it right there. Our thanks to Donna Brazile and to George Will. There is so much more to say.